Hello everybody, look, I've invested in a little bendy tripod thing and a more conventional tripod thing so that I can use the GoPro and do more sort of action type videos. The plan for this weekend is to get that panel back out and prep it ready for welding. There's a couple of broken studs that I need to pull out, or what I plan on doing actually is not trying to drill and tap and recut those threads, but just grind the nut off the backside and weld some new nuts on. You'll notice the radiator balanced in there. That was so that I could mock up where the fan needs to go. This isn't quite the right radiator, although all of the mounting points are identical and it has the right ports for the upper and lower rad hoses. The mounting points for whatever rad fan should go on here are a bit different, so I'm going to make myself a little bracket just to hold it. I just had this in here last night to work out where this needs to go relative to the exhaust manifold. I've got my water pipes so they can go back in. I also need to top up the gearbox with oil because when Simon was doing the suspension, he realised a drive shaft was knackered, so he put a new drive shaft in, but a bit of oil leaked out, so I need to top that up. So I've got the correct oil for that. So I'm going to go and put my scruffy stuff on and then come back, take that panel off and start getting ready to prep it for welding. It is already getting dark, so I'm going to get a reel on and just start taking this apart. These are the offending captive threads, so they need to be cut off. Then I'm going to basically de-rust the whole of the underside of this and then prime key areas with the zinc weld through primer and other primers, plus the tops of these as well. That can come out for safekeeping. Okay, I don't know whether you can still see now or it's even recording, but cut those captive threads off. Unfortunately I caught it with the grinder there, so I'll need to weld that up. Then I've just gone across it with a grinder just to clean up a couple of bits that had some surface rust. Now I'm going to attack it with the drill or the wire brush and clean it up a bit more. So that's that cleaned up. I'm going to weld those bits on up here and then cover this with Hydrate 80, that rust neutralizer. And then while I've got the drill out here, I'm just going to clean the tops of these bits off again, where I'm going to weld and dust some zinc primer on it. Right, okay, it started raining quite a lot outside, so I am now inside. And I didn't actually have a chance to clean up the top of the car or put zinc primer on it, but what I'm going to do now is weld the captive threads, or basically half nuts, onto where I cut the old ones off. These are near as damn it identical to original ones, so that's quite good. And I'm just going to use a couple of old M6 bolts from the other side to hold them in position while I weld them on. Well, that's a shocking weld, but it's on there and it's not going to come off. You might turn the heat up a little bit on the welder, get a bit more penetration. Do you like the way I'm welding straight onto carpet? I'm also going to just tack along that line. Yeah, that'll grind flat, that'll be fine. Right. That might be, well, I'll let it cool down a bit and then I'll put some of that Built Hamber Hydrate 80 on it, then probably call it a day. Really don't let the paint lid stick on with the fluid because it just gums it and then you can't undo it. But it is good stuff. I am a fan. It's not just me that likes it either. Right. Well, this will probably be quite boring. I'm sure you get the idea. Okay, that's all on there. I've really plastered it on, especially where there are these brackets where you can't get to the back side of it. I haven't bothered doing anything on the top side because obviously that's all going to be rubbed down, sanded and painted when it's in the car and you'll be able to get to it. This bottom side you won't. So I've gone overkill with this Built Hammer Hydrate 80 for the moment. A lot of that I'll be wire brushing off again. It's just to make sure I've treated any bits that I can't see. My intention is once that's gone off overnight, tomorrow I'll attack it with a wire wheel again, clean it all up and then etch prime it, and then I've even got some cans of green, so I'm going to paint the underside of it in green before I weld it on, because if you imagine that welded into the car, the painter with the engine in there isn't going to be able to shoot the gun up inside to paint that. So I'm going to do belts and braces while I've got good access. So I'm going to go inside now and cook my dinner, and then I'll come back and have a bit more of a play tomorrow. Whoops. Right, so that is rust primered. I'm going to take this into the house now and let it warm up I don't have any means of heating it down here in the workshop. Put a tiny bit on there. This stuff does actually go off quite quickly. It's not like a primer where you've got some kind of, I don't know, solvent. There must be a solvent, but it's pretty minimal. It's pretty thick, gloopy stuff. You can already see bits where it's dried off, and that's only been on there about 3 or 4 minutes. So I'm going to take that up the house. I'm going to take also my primers. I think I've got that one, and I've got an actual etch. I'm not going to bother putting the etch on because I've got that, and that's probably already going to do that. So I'm just going to primer it. Then I've got a couple of green paint cans somewhere, so I'll get all that ready, paint cans warming, that warming, then I can paint them up. So in the meantime, I'm going to go out to the car, use the wire brush to clean up the bits that are going to be welded onto, and then put weld primer on it, so that will protect it and then allow me to weld through onto clean steel beneath. Out here with the car, these are the bits I just want to clean up, and then zinc prime. We also need to move that out of the way because that's going to be in the area I'm welding. I'm debating whether or not to pull that battery tray out and paint it, although it's annoyingly involved because it's also supporting the ECU and a few other bits and pieces. So I'll have a think about that later. I'm also going to take that back off because I want that painted green as well. The less the painter needs to do down there, the cheaper it's going to be and the easier it is for them. So I'm just going to pull a few of those bits off and get ready for painting them green too while I've got the cans warming up. We are actually missing a captive bolt or nut thing from under there, so I'll need to weld another one of those in somehow. And also, this car's had some paint on this wing, but they never actually painted the inner lip, so I'm going to dust that down with this, and I'll probably end up brush painting that so they don't get overspray everywhere. Okay, this bit is kind of ready for the welding. As I say, I'll paint the top of that wing in with brush paints later, just to stop it from rusting. Both my can of primer and this have been sat on a radiator for a while, warming. Right, it ain't exactly neat, but it's protected. So that can go back on the radiator now. Right, while these bits are drying and while the other bits are warming up, I'm going to clean that up and paint it as well. You can actually see that although this was bolted to the cross member from factory, it had some sealer in there as well, maybe to stop it chattering or something, but I'm just going to clean all that off, etch prime it and dust the backside with green. might think, what an animal doing this in the dirt, but I'm just about to take this to my new painting chamber, degrease it and then etch it, so all of this dirt will come off. Okay, welcome to James's paint shop. What I've got is that front panel that's been degreased. I didn't actually have my panel wipe, so I've just been using brake cleaner, because this is sort of, you know, not super critical. They're the front bumper mounts. I've just rubbed them down, degreased again, and then I primed them with etch primer. This, once the bonda primer's gone off, I only put it on key areas where I'd either been really aggressive sanding it or there was surface rust. But once that's gone off, I'll etch prime that, just the backside, and then I'll paint them green. I think hopefully the bits that I left in the house will have dried by now, so I'm going to go and grab them and start painting the underside of that slam panel green. Right, these have just come out of the house. This is our Austin Rover British Racing Green. They're actually warm to the touch, so I'm going to coat them while they're still warm and hopefully it will dry a bit faster. Again, I don't really care about the finish, I just want it waterproof and broadly green. Because there's no way when the engine is in the car, the painter, with the best will in the world, is never going to be able to shoot up into this slam panel once it's welded on. So there's no point doing all this work and then this just unprotected going rusty. I don't know about the bonda primer, but the etch primers and that aren't waterproof. Hence the need to top coat it with something. I could have used black, I could have used any colour. The only reason I'm using this is because I had it. Okay, that'll do for the first coat. I've put that on super thick, so I'm going to put it back in the house to cure off, I think. Before I do that, I'll also dust these down. As an etch primer, it doesn't really need anything than a dusting. Right, so I'm going to put that in the house and wait for it all to dry. Remember the top of that wing? Well, I thought since I had the paints out and it is bare metal, I need to do something with it. So I've masked up the top of that wing. Just going to rub it down gently, degrease it, and give it some etch primer, and then I'll top coat it in green next time I've got the green can out. There is actually some tiny bits of corrosion in here, so I'm just going to hydrate 80 it as well for good measure. Right, I'm going to wait for that to go off. Back in the painting chamber, I've just collected this from the house where it's been sat on the radiator, and that's not even tacky anymore. It's only taken about, I don't know, 15-20 minutes to go off. So I can overcoat that, I can finish painting these two, and I can dust the back side of that one. Cool, right, so that's actually ready to be welded into the car once that's gone off. Top side looks a mess, but again, I don't care at this stage. That's body shop stuff. Quite impressed with this paint. The coverage is good and the nozzle's really good. So yeah, I think I just bought 2 of these off eBay for, I can't remember what it was now. It wasn't a lot, but yeah, it's painting nicely. Cool, right, good to go. I'm going to go check on the car and how the Hydrate 80 is doing on that wing, and if it's cured I'll put some primer on it, and then while I've got this relatively warm I can go straight over the top. That hasn't quite gone off yet, so while I'm waiting for that to happen I'm going to turn my attentions back to the radiator and mounting the rad fans on it. Here we have the radiator, balanced in position. And looking at the old wear mark, that's where the fans want to go. So you can see the problem, we've got no studs either top or bottom that align with my radiator. So I'm going to mark that position with a pen and then go in the workshop and knock up a bracket to hold the rad on. Right, this is, well, those are my reference marks as to where the rad needs to go. Oh, sorry, the fan needs to go on the rad. I think I keep getting those words mixed up. So the left side, I could just drill straight through here, nut and bolt it. That's easy. But these two are currently hanging in free air. So what I've bought is some aluminium strip, and my cunning plan is to just put it across here like that, well, you know, underside. Then I can bolt this onto those two and put a nut and bolt through that one, do the same top and bottom, and we have a nicely secured radiator fan and shroud. This needs a repair. my current thinking is again to bandage it with a strip of this, because it's alley, so it should work quite nicely, and I'll probably put it all the way down that side. I haven't decided yet, but that's what we'll do, and then this bit can be repaired with aluminium heat reflective tape. I don't know why I'm not recording this, because it was well, I don't know, just guess I couldn't be bothered. So I've drilled through there and there. I'm not even using a pilot drill or a centre punch, I'm just boshing them through. That's the beginnings of my bracket for the bottom. Got to go and find a saw and chop that off. Same again for the top, and then go find some nuts and bolts, and we should be somewhere close. Right, so that first part is done. Now I just need to find some M6 nuts and bolts and washers, which I'm not sure I have here, but I will have at work, and work out how best to rebuild this. It's not actually the easiest thing to bolt through. I could just do it with tape. In fact, that would be the simplest. I can't really put bolts through the back here because it's going to clash with the fan, and along here there isn't enough room really to get the heads in, so I might get the aluminium tape and tape it together and see how strong that is, and then make a decision as to whether I need to do anything else. But for the moment, that at least has got most of the way to fitting that on there. What I will need to double check is that you can actually get the rad in the car with the fan bolted on. I've noticed that these are slotted, so it might be that you put the rad in first and then you drop this in from above, in which case I'll bolt that on, but I won't bolt this down here, and I should still be able to get it in and out of the car easily. I'm going to go check on the paint on the car now and see if it's ready to take that route. The hydrate 80's gone off, so I'm now just going to dust it with some etch primer. Doesn't need to be overboard on that. And now the bit we've all been waiting for. It's time to go and get the slam panel and shove it on. I've got that loosely clamped in place. Ideally, I'd have had it clamped everywhere, but unfortunately I left my other clamps at work, so I'm going to tack the two ends first, then probably relocate the clamps to the middles and clamp them up and then tack those. There's still some inherent rearward flex in that. If you look from above, that is nice and straight, but this still wants to sit a bit further back, so I'll just have to pull that forward when I weld it. But it's actually looking really good, and I'm very pleased that I made the decision to replace that top rail and not just panel beat the original somewhere close. So I'm going to go and get the welder, finish cleaning up some of these perhaps, and tap it into shape a bit more. I might actually weld it first and then tack it. The other thing I haven't done yet is weld on the captive, but I'll do that from the underneath when this is on, so I've got more metal to go into, not going to melt a big hole, and when that area has dried, which it seems to be doing a bit. Overspray there a bit. A bit of a run. Right, that should settle out. It's quite cold, so it's taken a while to go off, but that actually helps. Stuff like that will probably pull. In fact, it already is. It'll pull down and you won't notice it. Okay, so I'm going to go and get the welder. Just refitting the front member. Incidentally, I put a bit of bonda primer on the back of that again and the front of there to sort of act as a bit of a sealer. Bit of a bodge, but never mind, better than nothing. Just grabbing a few tools. So my plan is to just tack probably that one once I've got it somewhere close. Excuse me while I fight with my tripod. So I'm aiming for that one. The wind has just started to get up, which is quite annoying. Just checking your recording. Yes, you are. You can see the wind effect. It would be nice as it's windy to turn my shielding gas up a bit more, but that's not going to work because I just haven't got enough really. Don't have that luxury. I should also really put my gloves on. Well, no going back now. I shall relocate you so you can see what I'm up to. Trying to get to the one down there. I'm going to turn you off. This one might be a bit more of a pain for two reasons. One is access, the other is this is the one where I'd actually ripped the spot weld out of the inner wing. So we have more potential for burning through, which is why I want that panel as close to touching as I can, like that, because the heat will be able to go straight into that inner wing and I'm less likely to burn a big hole. So I've hit this real hard down there. I might pulse the trigger a bit more as well so that I don't just blow a big hole. It's going to be one of those suck it and see type welds. yeah, it's just wanting to burn through. Well, I'm confident it's attached nicely, but it just wants to burn through this top rail. So I'm going to let it cool down a bit and then hit it again. I'll clean that up a bit too. Okay, that's done. Well, welding is done. I'll give you a grand tour. So, I'll turn this off. They're all done. One in the back is done. That all just needs cleaning up and dressing. These are the captives that I welded on last time, so they can be nipped off. They're all done. One at the back is done here. Same over this side. And those, I'm going to go and find myself a captive thread now and weld it on the underside of that for that wing to go back on. Right, I've got my captive thread positioned under here. Welding it is going to be a bit of a bitch because it's upside down and access to it isn't great, and I'm not really going to be able to film it, so I'm not going to bother. So I'll just try and get a seam on this side. It doesn't actually need to be super strong. All it's doing is holding a wing on. So as long as it's in the right place, it's not as if you're going to rip it off by torquing that wing bolt up. Okay, that is well and truly on there. Massive blob from this side. I thought I was about to burn through, but I didn't. I'm going to go grab the grinder, and then I can dress some of these welds, and I'll put some primer on it of some sort just to stop it flash rusting. found some paper. It's just an offcut of 800 grit, but it's better than nothing. I'm going to degrease this now because it's just clogging my paper. I don't know how much you view that, sorry, how much of that you saw, because I think I moved the tripod again. We have the welds ground back, sort of first stage I'm going to call it. They're all either only just above the surface or ever so slightly under, which is good, because then I can put a bit of filler on them before it goes to the body shop. That weld I can't easily get to at the moment. I really need my die grinder or something I could Dremel with a sander on it. I could take the fuse box out, but I don't think I'll even be able to get to it. But it's all degreased. I'm going to go and get some more masking materials and then put some etch primer on those bare edges. Then I can come back and shoot some green on that wing. I might even, no, I'm not going to waste my green paint on it. There's no point, because the body shop's got to do that, because they're going to make it look a lot better than I would. Mostly masked up. Right, where's my aerosols? Back on with the etch primer. As I say, it's not to do a super amazing job, it's just to keep it a bit protected. It's really tempting to put loads of stuff on, but it actually looks semi-decent. The etch is also really easy to sand flat, so you can kind of use it as a bit of a filler primer. You shouldn't even put it on that thick, it's just that that nozzle is, let's say, fairly generous. Right, that wing then. More degreaserage with stuff you probably shouldn't use as a degreaser, but it is at least a solvent, so better than nothing. That'll do. Let that evaporate off. this I am going to do in lots of thin coats rather than thick ones, because it was dead easy to run. Second coat. I am impressed with this paint. I bought it for the 800, but it's the same colour code as this car, I think. But it's one of those paints, a bit like some of the old Ford Blues or any of the like metallics. You've got to put a lot of layers on till you get the depth and the colour that's actually on the paint lid. So yeah, lots of coats, and I can't be bothered to film them all, so I will go and do something else now. Considering that is just an aerosol, that's 3 coats just toshed on there. Done a pretty damn good job. I have done something kind of dumb, but at the end of the day doesn't really matter. I presumed I could just buy these transfers again from Rimmer Brothers or someone else, and this is made at the same time as the Austin Mini, so I was expecting like loads of these stickers to be available. That one is available, but it says something in French above it, but it's only like £1 or something. That one I can't find, and I can't find anything similar. I've just tried to clean this up with some brake cleaner again, with the idea I could heat it with a heat gun and peel it off gently, but it's not going to work. It's going to break, I know from experience. So unfortunately, once they're sanded off, I don't think I'm going to be able to replace them, which is annoying. I should have thought of that beforehand and then maybe peeled them both off carefully, but never mind. That's it with the masking pulled off, and to be fair, that's a damn good colour match from a can, so happy with that. I'm knackered now. It doesn't look like a lot of work, but it's a lot of getting up and down and fanning around, and I'm kind of bored now, so I'm going to pack up the tools and go enjoy the rest of my weekend, I think.